Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. Alright.
Hello everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to the Front Row Movie Reviews, the podcast for people who actually like movies. You know, somewhere between Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Kobe Bryant, there are 2 decades of movies that define generations. For many folks, they are classics. For everybody, they are a flashback. We were supposed to do Mighty Ducks this week, but sorry, not happening. We decided to kind of postpone that for a little bit, and because we have another playoff season going on right now, because hockey and basketball can't handle the fact that you don't have to play a season for the entire year. You can take some time off. So
Says the baseball fan.
So the playoffs take 15 years to get done. But with that, we decided to talk about a movie that's near and dear to several of the people at this table's heart. Not so much mine. It came in a little late for me, but we'll go with it. And that is the one, the only, the Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny led Space Jam. 1996's Space Jam. And with us today to talk about it, we have
Craig McFarland, Associate Editor-in-Chief of the Front Row Movie Reviews.
Show off.
I am so pumped about this movie. I am so excited to talk about Michael Jordan, Muggsy Bogues, all the others, and Bill Murray.
And Bill Murray. That's what I want to talk about. And with me I have, as well,
Kevin Kulovic, and I'm just curious, Scott, did you have to look up Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and
I was seeing
Kobe Bryant, or were you able to do that on your own?
Let me point out the fact is I have not watched an NBA game in its entirety since Jordan played for the Bulls.
Well, you're missing out because there's a phenomenal player.
And the only reason
Jordan
why I
like
picked
right now.
Kareem and I picked Kobe is because I looked at the 1980 All-Star game and the 2000 All-Star game, and those were the 2 biggest names. So that's what I went with.
Fair enough. But no, I'm really excited.
Great.
Shoot, yeah.
So, what we're going to do here is I'll go over a little bit of the plot real quick and kind of get you all up to speed. But really, if you were born in the 80s or 90s, you've probably seen Space Jam. And then we'll just talk about the movie. So, it's 1993 when Michael Jordan retires from basketball for the 15th time.
Twice.
And we see him playing his other love, which is baseball, which doesn't play very well, as it did in real life. And Jordan is pulled down into, what is it, Looney Tune World? Or what's the way they call it?
I mean, you can call it Toontown.
Toontown. But it really wasn't Toontown. That's another movie.
Yeah, sure. I don't know what it's called, but it's in a golf hole.
Yeah, he's pulled down through
He gets pulled down through a golf hole by Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd. All of the gags are there. And their goal is to play a basketball game against some aliens from an amusement park that want to make the Looney Tunes into a new theme at the amusement park. I'm really just pulling this out of my butt as I go, guys.
So far, you're pretty good.
You're doing really well.
I want to point out that the Mighty Ducks was my synopsis for tonight, and these guys have really thrown me off. Lo and behold, they win the basketball game with Jordan as their ace in the hole, and everyone is happy except for the aliens who get
Spoilers.
It's a plot synopsis.
Big thing is, but the aliens steal the talent from
NBA
players, which is a huge part where we get that.
Larry Bird gets his talent stolen because he has a lot of talent in 1996.
No, Larry Bird does not get his.
Larry Bird is not in this movie.
He's not?
No. Well, Larry Bird's in the movie.
I mean, he's in the movie. He plays golf with Michael Jordan, but he doesn't get his talent stolen.
I'm not going to lie. I haven't seen this movie in 15 years.
No.
Not going to lie.
We have Charles Barkley, Sean Bradley, Patrick Ewing, Larry Johnson, and Muggsy Bogues.
I'm just going to hand this over to the guys who've watched the movie.
So, Craig, I'll take over from here. What's your first impressions of your movie? What's your overall feeling?
All right, so here's the deal. There was a little white guy in Silvis, Illinois, that really wanted to play basketball,
And he didn't do a very good job at it.
and he was terrible.
What's this guy's name, Craig?
It was Craig.
Oh,
And
fun
spoilers.
fact.
Spoilers.
I didn't know if I wanted to say spoiler or not.
But no, Space Jam, one of those movies that you could go back and watch. I made Anna watch this. And actually, if you want to go check it out, we always love supporting other podcasts here. My first podcast I ever recorded was with After the Hype. My buddy Brian in California records a podcast, and go check it out. After the Hype, Space Jam episode. I was on that via cell phone, and But this movie, I forced Anna to watch it. She loved it. Every time you watch this movie, it just makes you feel good. It's just a fun amalgamation of animated characters, real life characters. Bill Murray shows up, saves the day. What more can you ask from a movie? So I am very excited to talk about Space Jam.
I could not agree more, because I remember going to the theater and this theater being completely packed with people to see this movie. And I remember coming out, and I showed Scott, I have the Blu-ray of this, and I don't think I've watched it in a while, so I'm definitely going to be pulling it out very soon. But, wow, that's what she said. Anybody? But anyway, no, I love... It did it for 1996. The way they merged both a real life character and the cartoons, I thought it looked absolutely stunning for that time period. I mean, I don't recall. I mean, you had Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but
right, and that's like the gold standard for those types of animated films.
Yeah, but the thing is, Michael Jordan was immersed into this cartoon world, and you just get all that. And plus, when you add in all the sports stars and all the big-time comedians and everything throughout, it just makes for a great movie. And I will disclose, as much as I probably shouldn't, little Kevin, all of 7-year-old when he came out, kind of had a little crush on Lola Bunny. She was pretty hot.
Who didn't?
She was pretty hot.
That was our first furry experience. Let's all be honest here.
Oh! And we pull out the awkward turtle.
See, once we start periscoping this, you'll be able to see that. I am going to make a connection between Space Jam.
There's going to be an arc.
And The West Wing, the popular TV show that aired 17 years ago. I am going to do that by the end of this podcast. That I promise.
And it's going to make sense?
It's going to make absolute sense.
I hope so, because that's pretty...
Just remind me that I'm going to do that at some point.
So by the end, so in the wrap-up, like, where's West Wing come into this?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, for me, as I kind of mentioned jokingly, this came out in 1996. I was already 13 at the time, and I know Craig was really obsessed with this movie. And our dad fed him with, he had Bulls apparel throughout his room. He had a ceiling fan that was a Bulls basketball.
Talk about the comforter.
Talk
about that comforter.
He had a Bulls comforter.
It was a uniform. It was like I was sleeping in a Bulls uniform. It was awesome.
What's there? Just say Chicago, or just say Bulls?
They didn't want to pay Jordan apparently for the comforter.
But they did pay.
Bulls?
Yeah.
But they did pay Jordan for your life-size poster of Michael Jordan on your wall.
You had one of those, like a fat head?
Before
it was
Fat Heads.
way before Fat Heads.
I understand the poster.
But okay. Funny story though.
And then like the I Like Mike stuff.
You did have a Space Jam poster, did you not?
Yeah, no, I did.
Yeah,
I did. Actually, Dad got that for me from the movie theater because it was when the movie theater, like,
they throw shit out.
Well, yeah, and I mean they still give out those posters to employees, things like that. But this was more like you could just kind of go up and ask and say, "Hey, my kid likes this." So we actually did get the movie poster of Space Jam.
Cool.
I have no idea where it's at now. I'm sure it's.
Shed.
Well, shoot. I mean, but yet, the lead in this is Michael Jordan, who obviously we all like. He was our childhood.
He is the best basketball player, probably one of the best athletes of all time.
Absolutely.
And the nice thing is about him is he was a decent guy. That's one of the reasons why I'm not NBA anymore, because
ask his ex-wives about that.
Okay, you know what I mean. His persona was a good guy.
No, yeah.
Whereas some of the guys now, they are so cocky, it's just I can't get into him. But with Jordan, you rooted for Jordan.
Absolutely, and he was just so incredible to watch. And you had your stuff. I mean, I had my Jordan jersey as well, but random. But we had this was when it was Bulls, so we had a poster of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman, and it was right next to our dartboard, our real dartboard, down in our basement.
Poor Dennis.
So what we would do, I don't know why, but we would just threw these real darts with the metal tips right at this poster, so it had thousands upon thousands of holes in it. I don't know why we did that, but no. When you have, I mean, that was the big draw for this, because you have this superstar, this absolute superstar taking over this movie.
And let's be honest, the Looney Tunes were not really big in the 90s. I think they kind of fell out of practice probably in the 80s. You had Tiny Toons in the 90s, but really Bugs Bunny and all those folks weren't a big seller. So the big seller was the fact that you had Michael Jordan in the movie. Period.
Yeah, I mean, it brought together this movie. It had a pretty stellar cast when you think about it.
It had Newman.
It had Newman. It also had obviously Michael Jordan, Bill Murray, but it did also have who's the guy that played the chief at Moron Mountain?
Ooh, I don't even know who played him.
I gotta look it up because it was Danny DeVito.
Yeah, it was Danny DeVito.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the voice alone. I wanted
Absolutely.
to verify that it was Danny DeVito.
Yeah, it was Danny DeVito.
It had a really awesome cast, and what's interesting about the casting of it is Jordan had his whole family right at that time. He had his wife, had the kids, and they actually went out and they did a casting call for his wife and children in this movie. One of those interesting points about Space Jam.
DeVito's character was Swackhammer.
Yeah, and he ran Moron Mountain.
Yes.
Which is the amusement park that you alluded to in the summary.
Yes, I alluded to that I kind of remembered about. Yes.
So.
Something like that.
Yes. Okay, so that's our first impressions. Let's start talking about the cast a little bit, and we've already kind of hit on that, Craig. So, what are some of your favorite characters from it?
I mean, Bill Murray's role in this movie, especially when he comes.
Still my guy.
When I understand, but he's going to be probably all of ours. But especially when he shows up in whatever we want to call it, Toontown or in just Looney Tune Land. I think they call it Looney Tune Land.
Lois Bardella.
What?
Go ahead.
Anyway, but no, his just role and how he just tries to play like little Craig in '96. Bill Murray too in this movie had a dream of playing in the NBA, and then he got his moment, and then he's just like, I gotta retire. I'm retiring because he just had too much. And when you have those moments like that, and Craig, you said you're not. I mean, I just have to throw out. There was nothing I remember more about, especially in the NBA when I was younger, mid '90s, watching the announcement of the starting lineup for the Chicago Bulls. And when you have that little mouse character, I don't even know what the character is, but who played the announcement, he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, your starting lineup." And it just takes you right. Whenever I watch that now, it takes me right back to when watching every single Bulls. This is a great Bulls fan movie. It really is, because Michael Jordan is the ultimate.
Well,
Bull.
and all you have the Jock Jam CD too, right?
Well, we're going to get to the soundtrack. The soundtrack for this movie, I think, stands apart from many films. I mean, it is in the top 10 of all-time best soundtracks to a movie. But yeah, no, I mean, it goes beyond even being a Bulls fan, because they could have easily put in Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, all
they
those.
couldn't have. Not even close, because first off, Michael Jordan was the all-around player. He was the all-around player.
Are you going to start knocking Scottie Pippen?
No, I'm not
Okay.
saying, but Scottie Pippen couldn't hit the tray like Michael Jordan.
No,
could.
what I'm saying,
he
though,
couldn't
is
drive the
though-
lane like Michael Jordan. Dennis Rodman was just there for rebounds. How could we have a movie about? And
Dude,
trust me,
what I'm
I
saying-
can't believe you
what
said
I'm-
Dennis Rodman.
what I am
when you
saying-
said we should have a movie, this
had
should have
some
been
Dennis-
Dennis Rodman. Are you freaking kidding me?
Hey, he
What
was
I'm
in
saying
some
is that
movies.
I understand.
this
he
was an
in some-
NBA movie because they grabbed strategically. They went out and grabbed players from every region of the country.
Yeah, it was like the
to
All-Star
be able-
game.
Yeah, exactly. It was the
Well, and
All-Star
also-
team. So you got Charles Barkley, Muggsy Bogues.
But yet, also, it played for the different sizes that the aliens could. I'm like, we need all different shape and sizes, because when they take over their personas,
Larry
I mean,
Smith.
and Charles Barkley,
tall
and-
white guy.
because and I love how they chose Muggsy Bogues too, because he was I don't even think he broke 5'8". I think he was that short.
I'm 5'7", Kevin.
You also don't play for the NBA, Craig.
Craig, can you dunk? Because Muggsy Bogues could dunk.
Fair enough. So are you done with your character?
I mean, I could go more because I really like this movie.
All right, I want to talk about
This is
Wayne
like
Knight.
another-
Oh, you saw my other one! I have two!
I don't like Wayne Knight at all, so I didn't care for him at all.
Oh, he's great in this
No,
movie.
he was fantastic in this movie.
Tomorrow, I'm like,
He will forever just be known as Newman to me, but Wayne Knight does a very good job of playing that lovable loser every single movie he's in, and this is no exception. So I would say
He was a lovable loser
Great
in
job.
Jurassic Park.
when he digs up,
sure.
I'm fixing a divot or whatever. When he dig the entire green
That entire golf scene where he's like happy to be playing with Michael Jordan. It's so hilarious. So, and he's wearing the little visor. Fantastic.
Also, Bill Murray with that like umbrella thing he had around his head. for his hat when he was golfing. I'm just like,
Well, and you mentioned Wayne Knight, and another great scene is when he is trying to get picked for the team, and they go,
Sorry, we recorded 2 podcasts today, and Jeremy didn't finish his beer. I have no idea which one. This one has.
we're all family.
"You've had worse." He's when he's trying to get picked for the team, and they pick the mouse before they pick him. He's like, "You picked the mouse?"
Oh yeah. Poor Tweety Bird when he got injured. I love that in the last scene when they're all like all in comas and everything because they're playing. Oh man, great movie. So where are we going next, Scott?
Well, favorite scenes would be next on the list.
Oh, Lord.
What do you got for favorite scenes?
I would say the entire golf scene. I mean, you've got Larry Bird playing golf with Michael Jordan and Bill Murray, and Wayne Knight is just playing the lovable loser the whole time, and that's how Jordan gets sucked down into the Looney Tunes land, and it really kind of brings together that entire group of people.
Yeah, I mean, this movie's just chock full with good scenes, like just stupid scenes too. When they do the spit shine to clean up the gym, I don't know why, but I just thought that was really funny. And then Michael Jordan comes out with his because Bugs and Daffy went to go. It was Daffy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make sure I got him and Donald.
It wasn't.
How would you
Donald.
mix up Daffy and Donald?
Now that I'm thinking about it, I know I didn't. But yet, when they're going through the house to get his shorts and his gym bag and everything, but you can't just beat that whole final last game.
No, but why? Why would he only have Why would he have those shoes on display?
Because he's Michael Jordan.
But why would he have those shoes on display?
Because Nike signed a contract.
Shall we see how much Nike got paid for a little promotion?
Well, they were Nikes, right?
everything.
I'm assuming they had to been Air Jordans. I'm assuming.
That I don't recall exactly. But that's a good question.
I just don't understand that entire scene flummoxes me because I don't understand why he would have those.
Well, wasn't the whole storyline, again, I'm going 15 years in the past here, but wasn't the whole storyline those were his shoes that he played when he was a Tar Heel?
Right.
And so he had them on display because they were
Rest in peace, Tar Heels this year.
Oh, wow. Did anyone see the crying Jordan meme, by the way?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Was he crying?
Look up crying Jordan. That's all you got to
Okay,
do.
but first off, I thought he... This is way sidetracked. This is some modern day Jordan. When they hit that last shot, he was just like, that was incredible. And that's what it looked like. He just goes like, oh my God, that was awesome. Like, I'm like, it sucks, but he's like, that was incredible. But
So, yeah, I mean, if you won the national championship in college, you would keep your shoes on display, would you not?
I mean, they're just shoes, guys.
I agree with Greg.
You got to keep in mind, okay, little Jordan aside here. You know how NBA has baggy pants now, baggy shorts. You know why they do that? Do you know why they wear baggy shorts as opposed to like the Kareem Abdul like nut huggers they used to wear?
Because
Big penises?
it's a style.
Why I do it.
No.
It's a style.
No, it's Jordan started it, and this is legitimate. You can look it up. Jordan always wore his UNC shorts underneath his shorts for NBA games. He wore those shorts his entire NBA career. And to wear 2 pairs of shorts on him, he had to wear larger shorts to get it done. And so...
You're kidding me right now.
Look it up! I'm telling you right now. You look it up. Jordan wore his UNC shorts underneath his Bull shorts. And I guess Wizard shorts after that, too.
Sure. Well, one of the other scenes that I want to bring up is the hand stretching scene.
the dunk.
The dunk from half court.
Longest dunk in the history of dunks.
It was a dunk for sure.
I'm talking about as in the longest scene. Not, I understand his arm reached half court, but
That, to me, I mean, as a kid, I thought it was the coolest scene in the movie. As an adult, I think it's really creepy and gross looking. I mean, go back and watch that scene.
absolutely. I mean, I've watched it in the last year or so, and I agree.
It was just like, it's just like him stretching out his arm like
But that
Mr.
goes with
Fantastic.
any movie we revered as kids.
Sure.
So you go back and look, and you're like, looking back, if we were doing Mighty Ducks tonight, I would have been like, hey.
I wish we were doing Mighty Ducks
Because-
tonight. I would be much more in the conversation.
there was plenty of scenes. I mean, there are always those scenes where you're just like, wow, that's mildly inappropriate.
Right.
Or that's really inappropriate.
Basically how they treat Lola Bunny the entire time.
Okay, mensfitness.com. The 10 most superstitious athletes of all time. Number 10, You wouldn't think the greatest professional basketball player of all time would rely on superstition, but even Michael Jordan himself was known for a specific quirk. While leading the Chicago Bulls to their 6 NBA championships during a legendary career, the 5-time MVP wore his University of North Carolina shorts under his uniform in every game. Jordan led UNC to the NCAA championships in 1982 and believed the mesh marbles brought him luck. In order to cover his lucky pair, Jordan began wearing
See, I told you.
In order to cover his lucky pair, Jordan began wearing longer shorts, which inspired a trend in the NBA.
I feel like today in the modern NBA, it would have done that anyway, and they wouldn't be wearing the crotch huggers.
Nut huggers, sir. They were nut huggers.
But you know what? His story is really interesting. Michael Jordan's. They're actually on. I think it's on Netflix. It might be.
Well, in Space Jam, he's that little boy at the beginning shooting a lot of basketball.
Very astute, Greg.
Yeah.
Yes. But no, if you
Wasn't this about the same time his dad passed away?
It was, and that was the whole reason for his first retirement.
Yeah.
Was his dad died, and he retired from basketball, and so looking back, I think that this was done after he came back, but kind of in that time, because at the end of this movie, he's actually still wearing number 45, which, of course, he only wore for one season.
Well, and it was
when
filmed
he
in '95.
Returned.
And when
Do you know why that he wore number 45? Sorry.
Because he retired 23.
Exactly.
Yeah, they retired his own
Isn't that
number.
nuts? They retired his own number.
Well,
and
no
he
one
couldn't get it
expected him to
back.
come back. Then he played for the White Sox for 5 minutes, and that's what you do.
Well, White Sox minor league
Well, he
team.
played for
Yeah, I
the
was gonna
farm
say it
team.
was
Yeah.
not the White Sox.
I think didn't he pull him up for like an exhibition game one time?
To sell some tickets, I'm sure.
I'm gonna say that is one of my favorite scenes too, when he's striking out and the catcher's just like big fan. It's like
Well, and
curveball, don't swing.
Don't swing.
Told you not to swing.
Well, and then
I can't help
and
it.
the movie ends with him going not to a basketball game, but to a baseball game. He's dropped off by
Right.
a UFO at a baseball game.
False.
Sure,
Because
I
after
mean-
that, it cuts right back him to coming back to.
Well, I get that. I mean, I get that the movie ends with a montage of him playing for the Bulls again. Like, the Looney Tunes got him back into basketball. But the last scene of the movie is he's getting dropped off for a baseball game.
Right, and then the montage is after that.
when he goes back, so it ends up with
We're in number 45.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe it was filmed and then they had the montage scenes when it came out, or maybe he was already back.
Honestly, I don't know what my Bulls jersey was. I think I had a 23. I think that was the Bulls
He only
jersey.
played 45 for one season, right?
Right, it was only until the beginning because he joined back up again, like middle of that season. So he only played for 45. I don't know, maybe 50, 60 games. I mean, it wasn't much that he played as 45.
You know what's crazy is that I'm just looking right now, a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is disgusting.
Did
Five-
better than BVS.
That is true. And
But this movie is just fun. I mean, you go to this movie. It's not like you think it's going to be this amazing piece of cinematic art, but you just have a good time when you watch this movie, and it still resonates today. I mean, they just did a reading of Space Jam with current folks this last year. Actually, Blake Griffin played the part of Michael Jordan, so he read
Ew.
through all the.
I don't know who this is. I'm sorry, I really don't.
Oh my goodness, you don't know.
I'm a baseball
especially after this season, it
I'm
needs to be
sorry.
like a,
Sure.
a Stephen Curry.
Legitimately, I haven't watched an NBA game, guys, in like
Well, see,
15
and
years.
Stephen Curry, he's the new.
Go basketball.
Right now,
college.
he's like the new Michael Jordan going
Well,
on. This kid's
and-
absolutely incredible.
And there's talks of a sequel, and LeBron James has been in talks for a
He's
sequel
the reason
for a
why I
while.
don't watch NBA. So I don't want him in this movie.
Well, fair enough, but I'm just saying that it still resonates today that Space Jam is in the public lexicon
Oh, yeah.
because all these current NBA players, they grew up watching Space Jam.
Well, and you know, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray is still around. I love to see him in something like this again. And that's, you know, some of my favorite scenes are whenever Bill Murray's on the screen. I enjoyed this movie 10 times more because I'm a Ghostbusters fan, I'm a Bill Murray fan, and every time he shows up, it's just fun. The golfing scenes, but also when he shows up and starts playing basketball as well too.
And Danny DeVito goes, "Whoa! I didn't know he was in this picture." It makes fun of itself. The movie makes fun of
it's a
itself.
smart movie.
But yet, I'm reading some reviews. A harmless mismatch of basketball and animation that'll entertain kids but leave adults less than thrilled. Now, we are coming to it as
Kids who watched it,
who grew up on this.
Yeah.
And
So it did. The reviewer's right. It entertained kids, and now it's nostalgia.
But now, true. I guess we're looking at it as more nostalgia.
We've
than
definitely
anything.
got the nostalgia goggles on.
But
here.
yet, still, it is perfect for our and both where we grew up and in our age group because we grew up on Michael Jordan, which is such a huge and it's great that we actually had a motion picture that blended both cartoons. Even though I was never a big cartoon guy.
I
never
love
watched
the Looney Tunes.
See, I never watched much. I mean, I think I did some, but I was never a huge cartoon guy growing up. But yet, this was the perfect blend of both the Bulls, which I loved watching nightly whenever they were playing, and Michael Jordan. I loved watching Michael Jordan when I was younger. And honestly, that's the last time when Michael Jordan was playing for the Bulls was the last time I was actually watching the NBA regularly.
I think a lot of people are in that boat.
I mean, I watch it occasionally if it's at the bar or wherever right now. And one thing we haven't talked about is the other NBA players that were in throughout. I mean, we've mentioned them, how Larry Johnson, Patrick Ewing, Muggsy Bogues, Sean Bradley, and Charles Barkley. And we kind of mentioned how the aliens steal their talent and...
in a gym bag. A magical gym bag.
Yes.
Touch the ball.
Touch the ball. That was weird. But anyway.
That was that's what you got out of this is weird. You've got Lola Bunny and playing basketball, but you think the basketball that's magic is weird.
No, I mean, obviously it's a fantasy.
Don't make a sexist joke.
It's a fantasy,
Saw that look.
obviously. But then the results of the aliens stealing their talent is that they go back to the NBA, and we didn't really...
The Monstars.
They turn in the Monstars, and the NBA players somehow don't lose their height or anything. They just lose their talent.
Well,
but just because they lose their talent, the aliens get their height and size and talent, which was kind of a good...
nitpicking Space Jam right now? Is that what you're doing?
Isn't that what we're supposed to do? I mean, we're just talking about some things that don't make sense.
You're right.
I mean,
There are a couple plot holes.
Granted, Michael Jordan being pulled through a little the cup at the end of the hole, but you know what? It's minor detail.
It's okay.
And then,
Ant-Man does it now. It's fine.
But no, and
is a
so
quantum
the
vortex.
NBA players lose their talent, and I do love the scenes where the NBA's freaking out, and you have players wearing gas masks because they don't know what's going on.
Is it bad that now you mention that they had the 30 for 30 about Magic Johnson, and when I remember that scene now, and when I was watching the Magic Johnson piece, because they were talking about how at first the NBA players didn't want to play with him, they were all, not all
Worried about it, yeah.
Worried about it. There was talks about quarantines and everything else. I remembered that scene in Space Jam, and that's what I remembered watching that documentary.
You know what? And there might very well could be a parallel between what was going on with that versus what was going on in the movie, which would be an interesting parallel. Just as
Somebody's
much as,
dissertation right there.
just as much as the parallel, I'm really looking forward to Craig making to not West Side Story, but
West Wing.
very soon.
I truly believe, and you're gonna make your parallel, but I truly believe that Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Space Jam are in the same universe. I truly believe
agree.
that. The Looney Tunes are in both of them, and I think after Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the Looney Tunes went into hiding, and that's what happened.
Yeah, but it's interesting because you do have two different. Because Who Framed Roger Rabbit was in real life with cartoons involved, but this one it was the opposite, where a human was in the cartoon universe.
Yes.
And honestly, I was even looking at it back now, I'm very impressed by what they were able to do. Mm-hmm. Even though, I mean, you've been having cartoons within real life movies for years. Starting with what, Mary Poppins?
Well, Song of the South was before Mary Poppins.
The Song of the South started it out. Sure, but
we're not going to bring up
I mean, Mary Poppins was the first one to really break the mold.
It wasn't
It won
racist?
Best Picture, all that. So,
This wasn't racist. This was just sexist.
No, I said Song of the South.
Oh, that one.
We won't talk about that one because it was racist.
Gotcha.
let's just talk about Michael's magic juice for just a little bit. It's water, right?
Yes.
Now, was it magic
Cartoon
juice? I
water.
thought it was magic stuff.
Magic stuff. You're right. You're right. It is the magic stuff. But
Let's be accurate on this podcast because I take these. As you can tell, I'm talking more than what I usually do on these podcasts because I take.
Kevin's a little excited about this.
you
one.
know, it just promotes good health because they're using water.
It was cartoon water, though. It could be almost bad as Flint water at that point.
Or Chatham water.
Oh, if you're a local, you know what that means. If
hope-
not,
we're hoping that-
if you're one of our Australia listeners,
Yes,
I don't understand that reference.
We're hoping that we
Look it
have
up,
more
Chatham water.
local listeners.
Chatham Illinois water.
I just said, I just threw it out there that our water's terrible. Anyway, did you know that on Box Office Mojo, this movie, Space Jam, is the highest grossing basketball movie of all time?
Well, how many more basketball movies do you have?
There's actually quite a bit. I mean, if you think
Basketball
about
Diaries? Hoosiers?
it. White Man Can't Jump,
Okay.
Coach Carter, Like Mike, Glory Road, Semi-Pro, Eddie, Hoosiers, Love and Basketball, Air Bud, Blue Chips, Just Right, The Air Up There, Rebound, Above the Rim, which I think is a fantastic adaptation of a Shakespeare play. Six Man. I mean, it keeps going on and on, but this
The only one of those
basketball, I mean, it's kind of like
Okay, the
basketball.
only one that I consider a
it's got real
legit
big fish in it.
basketball movie would be this and Hoosiers.
Well, White Man Can't Jump is obviously a
Shut up.
basketball movie.
I understand.
Speaking of Coach
the
Carter, let me do an aside right
Coach
here.
Carter wasn't there.
You want to talk about Michael Jordan being somewhat not what their persona is in real life? I've met Coach Carter. He was a dick. Not gonna lie, he was a dick.
You met Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah, yes, I've met Samuel L. Jackson. No, I've met Coach Carter.
Oh.
The legitimate Coach Carter. He made us pay to get a picture with him, and it wasn't like a comic thing. He we saw him in the airport. He's like, if you're gonna take a picture of me, I need $10. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Hey, he's hurt.
He's
Gotta
not
make-
hurting.
He's
Gotta
a
make
fair
a living.
market capitalist. He's not necessarily a dick.
Yeah, okay, well, whatever. He's not hurting. That dude sold the story like 3 times. He's okay.
Before we forget, Craig, what did you think of the soundtrack?
The soundtrack to this movie, one of the best of all time. I mean, if you think about it, like, it was all the songs were really morphed around the movie, which doesn't necessarily happen all the time. So when we think of good soundtracks now, we think of Guardians of the Galaxy pulling from older hits. But if you listen to the Space Jam soundtrack, you've got Basketball Jones, you've got obviously the title track Space Jam, done by the Quad City DJs, which isn't the same Quad Cities that I'm from.
That's unfortunate.
But you also have R. Kelly with I Believe I Can Fly. And then you've got Steve Miller Band, Like an Eagle. Obviously, that one was already out in the in society prior to this movie. But just an amazing soundtrack for a small Warner Brothers film that came out. It seems like it really holds up against the test of time.
I mean, Quad City D, that title song, when it breaks into that montage of everything, was lights out awesome. And I showed Scott it because I'm like, I think I have this on Blu-ray. And I do. So I'm like, oh, I need to watch this again because there are just those great moments. And while you were gone, Craig went to the bathroom in the middle of this. But we were
That's
talking
normal.
about how
Hold it, Tim.
I quoted one of the, it's great for kids, but the adults won't care for it. But now we're in the nostalgic phase where we can look back and we still enjoy it, even though I think we see the flaws a hell of a lot better now than what we did as kids. But
we don't care.
we absolutely do not care. We do not care. This is just a fun movie where we got to see the superstar of our time be the center point. And that was excellent.
Well, and I think we've hit on Jordan a lot. We've hit on the NBA a lot. But again, this is a really fun Looney Tunes movie too.
Sure.
And I get you're not really into it, Kevin. Craig, I don't know how much you were in the Looney Tunes, but I used to have the old VHS tapes. I used to watch those shorts, the original like 1940s, 50s, 60s shorts all the time. They still hold up. They're great. So I think I relate more to Bugs, Daffy, and everybody else than I do to the NBA guys.
Sure. And I would say I'm probably more of a little different, even though
Yeah.
I related to Michael Jordan more than anything.
Sure.
And it's still, I knew who all those other guys were because, I mean, I watched the Bulls play them all during the 90s.
Well, and then, and you're right. We were in the sweet spot. And not only age demographic, but the fact that we were all from Illinois, so we're all Bulls fans.
Absolutely. Born and raised Bulls fan, and that's what made it special. This is my favorite time in NBA history for myself because
Oh, yeah, the 90s were awesome.
this was my team at the top of its game, and I'm seeing the best player on my team and in the entire world taking center stage for this movie.
And if only they would have wrapped Rose and bubble wrap a few seasons, maybe they could have done it again in the 2000s.
Yeah, a lot of bubble wrapping.
Well, I think that I think that this is the perfect time to bring it back, because I think if they're going to do a sequel to this movie,
Oh, it's not about the Bulls, but okay.
Well, sure,
You can bring them back too.
the Bulls will come back if Derrick Rose ever decides to play an entire
Wrap
season.
them in bubble wrap. You'll be fine.
But I think that it would be good to bring back a sequel to this movie now, because we are so nostalgic about this movie, and bringing back up the idea of animated film interacting with real humans. I think that it could. I think
And
that
they've
it
been
could be a
talking about it.
success.
They've been talking about LeBron doing it.
Oh, God.
But yet, as much you say, oh God, but that guy is.
Oh, he's huge. I know,
He's a
huge.
superstar, and he is so talented. But yet, you need to find the person that can. Surprisingly, Michael Jordan acted it all right. He actually acted not too bad,
He played himself. It was quite nice.
and which worked.
Yeah.
And eventually, we'll do a miracle when you have these athletes.
I haven't seen Trainwreck, but LeBron was in that, right?
I haven't seen that either, so I don't.
So I from what I understand, he didn't do an awful job.
He was also in there. How many? 2 minutes, if that?
I honestly
I
I
haven't
haven't
seen
seen
Trainwreck,
Trainwreck,
so I
so it's hard to tell. But I could see him doing it. I think that he has the popularity factor more so than like you said, Steph Curry going in there. It just doesn't make sense. You have to put your main star out there,
I mean,
and
Steph Curry is still so young in his career too.
Right.
Michael Jordan was what? He was probably 9 years into his career at this point. when
absolutely.
This came out.
Well, he's into his first retirement.
He's 1 year
Yeah.
into his new career at this point.
Right.
True. Scott, how do you feel about this movie?
I think we discussed it. Is there anything else you guys want to add?
I would say go check out the Funny or Die reading of this. It happened back in 2014. Featured the likes of Blake Griffin as Michael Jordan, but Seth Green, Danielle Fishel, Ben Schwartz, Nick Kroll, and of course the one, the only Ralph Garman from Hollywood Babylon. So go check that out. Really great table read of Space Jam. I think that this movie resonates because of the nostalgia factor. Everything that we love to talk about in flashbacks, this movie encompasses. You've got a great cast of characters. You have a great killer soundtrack behind them. Maybe not the best of stories, but that doesn't matter.
It's a cartoon. You don't need it. Doesn't
Right. I
it
mean,
doesn't need to be.
the plot doesn't necessarily matter in this movie. And I mean, I know that that's hard to say, but you don't care about it. It's just turn off your brain, watch 90 minutes of fun. That's what this movie is. And hey, it made $230 million around in the lifetime of this movie. So obviously, it connected with a lot of people. Now, Jordan probably brought in 70-80% of that, but
If you're being nice to the tunes he did.
but it's still great to go back and revisit. I would highly suggest that you go back and watch Space Jam.
Sure, and I'm still, as I've recently helped that ongoing box office and just sales of this movie. But yet, and see, you say you love the soundtrack, but see, I just don't consider this a soundtrack either. Because if it's a compilation of songs,
There were plenty of songs written for the soundtrack, though.
but yet the iconic one, there was only one iconic one that I can. That
The
I
one written
recall.
by the Steve Miller Band?
No, that was not written for this movie. It came out 20 years before then. That was written. So it's a compilation of songs, but granted, they work well for the song. And I would say that the compilation of songs used for this movie, yes, is solid. But yet, Space Jam, the song by Quad City, is good. It's very good, and it sets it up perfectly. But you're absolutely right that it cost, $80 million to make, and they're pulling, 250 million right now.
Little fun aside, Space Jam is one of the first films to have a website.
We
on the
talked
internet.
about this last
We
week.
did,
Yes.
and I wanted to bring it up. So Space Jam came out in 1996, and it was one of the first sites that had a website directed to the movie. for some reason, I have no idea why, that website is still up.
It is. We looked at it
And
last
it
week.
is legitimately the exact same website, frames and all, that you would have saw in 1996. So if you Google Space Jam, usually when you Google a movie, the Wikipedia page, the IMDb page shows up first. No, when you Google Space Jam, the first hit is the Space Jam movie website. Go check it out. It's kind of fun. There's little games and stuff, little flash games.
Nice.
It's
That's
ridiculous.
awesome. That's so great. So, I promised that I'd connect this to the
Yes,
West Wing.
please do. Finish this off strong.
Today in my car, I was listening to the West Wing Weekly, which is a podcast being
good.
hosted by Joshua Malina, who of course was Will Bailey on the West Wing. Also, some guy from a different podcast.
He does a music podcast.
Anyway,
Dulé Hill's going to be on next week.
Dulé Hill was on this week.
Oh, it just dropped? I got to
And-
listen to it then.
And it was the episode of Proportional Response, and Dulé Hill and Will Bailey talked about how on the Warner Brothers
Dulé Hill
lot.
and Will Bailey. Josh Molina.
Joshua Molina. They talked about how on the Warner Brothers lot they would all go out and play basketball because Warner Brothers installed the hoop during the filming of Space Jam so Michael Jordan could keep up on his game.
Nice.
So they were using the
Nice.
hoop.
That's a good episode, too.
Yeah, absolutely. But they used it throughout the entire filming process. Apparently, Martin Sheen has a killer hook that is very hard to defend. And Dulé Hill talked about being this 20-year-old black guy that was getting his ass kicked by a 50-year-old white Martin
It comes
Sheen.
from having one arm shorter than the other.
So anyway, that is your connection to the West Wing. Go listen to the West Wing Weekly. God, I always promote other podcasts. Listen to our stuff, too.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I'm going to back you up on this. Josh Molina's podcast, The West Wing Weekly, just dropped about a month ago. They're going through episode. It is very good. Because, for one, you could tell Joshua Molina hasn't watched these episodes almost ever because he wasn't even in the show at this point.
Nope.
But it's kind of fun to listen to.
Yeah.
So, anything else we got around the table before we close up?
Shoot. If you haven't seen it, which if you're listening to this, go see it. Or you've already seen it, I mean. But no. This is definition, as I say for every flashback, definition of nostalgia.
Well, that's the whole point of Flashback.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Craig, go ahead and tell them, since you're the plug guy and you're here this week, tell them how they can get a hold of us and how they can tell us what other Flashback movies they want to have talked about.
If you'd like to get a hold of the show, contact us on Facebook or Instagram, The Front Row Movie Reviews. Also find us on Twitter at Front Row Reviews with a Z. If you'd like to have direct contact to our phones with the show, contact us at
I'm not giving you my number.
Yeah, I was
The
going to say.
Front Row Movie Reviews at gmail.com. You can also find us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. We're going to be having a website coming up pretty shortly. And then,
It's only been a year, guys. It's
as
only
I've been
a year.
discussing, I think that we're going to start periscoping our episodes as well. So
God.
it should be a lot of fun. Check out the Front Row Movie Reviews. Thank you for the awesome amount of downloads that we've been having. It's been incredible, the amount of support we've had. So continue to pass that along to your friends, your relatives, your enemies, anybody that you see on the street. Just tell them about the Front Row Movie Reviews.
Amen.
And yeah, I completely agree with that. And I really do want to hear from you. Not only your hate mail, I still want your hate mail. I really do. But Space Jam came about because we were sitting around the table talking about Sandlot, and Space Jam came up in the conversation, so we decided to do that. So we are always looking for different movies to be doing for this. There is a somewhat of a schedule, but it is very fluid. So if you have movies that you definitely want to hear in flashbacks, please shoot us an email or a Facebook message or an Instagram picture. I don't know how you kids do these things nowadays. And let us know what you do.
Can I just say, my favorite line ever echoed on the Front Row Movie Reviews was Scott saying, "What the hell is with these kids and their
Flat-brimmed hat.
flat-brimmed hats?"
Yeah. That was funny.
That was Scott showing that he is 87 years old. And
I don't understand it. Bend your brim, you bastards. Bend it. Okay.
I got nothing.
On that note, I'm Scott McFarlane, and I promise I'll watch the movie next time before we record a podcast. And with me one more time, we have...
Kevin Cullivan.
Craig McFarland.
And until next time, get your Hanes on, lace up your Nikes, grab your white Wheaties and your Gatorade, and we'll pick up a Big Mac on the way to the ballpark. We'll see you in the front row next time. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Everybody get up. It's time to slam now.
I believe I can fly.